This is how I accidentally started training for optimal health. So I was training 4 to 5 days a week when I was in high school. I didn't have much responsibilities. So I was like, let's just focus on the gym. And now that I'm in college and I'm living alone, I got a lot of stuff to do, including jobs, YouTube stuff. I also like doing sports. So I was not able to commit much to the gym anymore. So I switched to 2 to 3 times a week. But then recently, on researching about hormone optimization, I found out that full body training, specifically focusing on compound exercises 2 to 3 times a week, is actually very optimal for your health. And in this video, I will be breaking down why it is optimal. And in the next video, I will be showing you guys the exact workout program that I have been doing for the past 6 months, which I believe gave me a lot of progress in terms of strength and in terms of size. But most importantly, in terms of how I feel and how it optimized my health. Right. Let's get started. So yeah, the first topic I shall say is how resistant training can regulate your stress. Right. So believe it or not, although when we're training, we're sweating, we're stressing out about stuff, but it actually is very beneficial for regulating your stress in day to day life. And that's just how your body does that. So when you're training, your SNS or your sympathetic nervous system is activated. And when it's activated, your heart rate variability is reduced, which means that your heart rate is constant or almost constant 80 to 90% of the time during the exercise, the duration of your training. Then, after the stressful situation done by the activation of the SNS, sympathetic nervous system, your body goes into the recovery mode, which is followed by a parasympathetic nervous system rebound after the session, which in simple words means that your body adapts itself to the best system for optimizing stress. So, whenever you're doing hard training, full body, that is working with multiple muscle groups at the same time, when you're doing that system, your body finds the best way to handle that stress. And when you're exercising, your stress biomarkers are altered with its pathways, right? So your body finds pathway for better stress optimization and reduce amygdala over excitability, which is pretty much a fancy term to say that your body knows how to handle stress in a healthier way. And how does it does that? So when you're in a stressful situation, your body produces hormone from your hypothalamus through your pituitary gland and through your adrenal gland, which is adrenal gland is the last like destination. But pretty much when you are exercising, when you're in a state of stress, your body produces certain type of hormones throughout that system in order for you to regulate that. And when we're exercising, and specifically, your body finds the best way of stress optimization and pretty much let these hormones flow into your body, which reduces the amygdala over excitability, which is the way we react, right? The way we react to that stressful situation is improved when we are training with the stress biomarkers, right? And when we're having the stress induced by the exercise, right? It is different compared to the stressful situation that we have in our daily life, right? And especially the difference is that when we are stressed due to the exercise, your body changes cortisol into an inactive cortisone, which which gives the chance or chance to increase growth hormone and IGF-1 for a short period. A short period means like it depends on person to person, but pretty much saying that your body lowers cortisol after your body experiences stress induced by exercise, right? And when that is lowered, you have more chance of growth hormone and IGF-1 secretion. So there's many studies, but here's one study that I've found, which points out the reduction of amygdala overexcitability due to the physical and psychological stress done by the activation of the HPA axis. HPA axis pretty much is the system that I mentioned, like the hypothalamus, the pituitary to adrenal gland, right? Because when that is active, pretty much your body is coping with that stress. And once it is coping with that stress, it reduces the amygdala excitability. And that is explained in the second part, which is again the physiological stress related to AE, which is exercise, right? Which is the physiological stress response to the exercise causes your hypothalamus to start increasing the CRH, and once the CRH is increased, is secreted, the pituitary gland, interior pituitary gland, start producing the ACTH into the general circulation. And once these hormones that are secreting from the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland reaches the adrenal gland, cortisol release into the system, right? And then when these three things are working in unison, your body reduces amygdala overexcitability, and completion of the circuit restores homeostasis of your body, which is a sign of healthy stress response. Pretty much saying that because of the stress induced by physical exercise, your body, the system in your body, the HPA system, secretes hormones, and once the hormone secretion completes a cycle, your body goes back into a homeostasis, which is a safe space for your body's survival state, and which is a healthy sign for stress response, right? Again, this next study goes into detail about how athletes has more ability to convert the cortisol into inactive cortisone compared to untrained individuals in resting conditions. Pretty much saying that athletes, like triathletes, are better with converting your cortisol levels into cortisone compared to regular individuals in their day-to-day life So that would mean that when an athlete, let's say, have a stressful situation in real life, they will be able to handle that situation better than untrained individuals, right? And again, what is the connection then with the HPA activity and hormone optimization? What does it mean that we are stressed, when we can regulate stress, what does it mean for our hormone optimization, right? So when HPA is active, the system, right? When HPA system is active during the exercise, the testosterone come into play in order to regulate the activity. Thus, the more HPA is active to a certain degree, keywords a certain degree, the more active the testosterone is in your system. Pretty much what it happens is that when the HPA system is active, like the hormones are going through the complete cycle, your testosterone comes into play in order to regulate the hormonal activity that is happening during the HPA axis. And the more the HPA is active in a certain degree, right? Because there are a scenario where you overtrain and it becomes uncontrollable. You don't want to go through that route. But when you're going through a healthy activity of hormones in the HPA axis, your testosterone is also active in terms of regulating them. Thus, when you have more testosterone, your body will produce more testosterone as well. And here comes the part about proper rest and training intensity, because when we're not properly resting, if either we're over resting or we're under resting, and if we're overtraining or undertraining, your HPA activity might not be able to be maximized. So if the HPA activity is not maximized, your hormone will not be able to work efficiently as well. Vice versa, you can maximize your with proper rest and training intensity, you can maximize your HPA activity so that your hormones can work efficiently. Which, in simple terms, you just create a good environment for the growth hormones, IGF-1, to be active as well, and overtraining can disrupt that good environment of hormone regulation in your body. And the other thing is when you're overtraining, you can also increase cortisol level, right? So this study is comparing two groups, right? Training one, T1 and T2. T1 is the new individuals of training for the first week, and during the first week, the cortisol levels were significantly high, but the IGF-1 and IGF-BP3 are unchanged. So I assume that the cortisol levels are high during the T1 phase because your body is adapting to the newfound stress, right? But then at T2, the cortisol levels decrease while the IGF-1 and IGF-BP3 levels increased. So in phase two, your body is finding that balance of the environment for good hormonal regulation, right? And then the variations of the levels is significantly correlated with changes in training loads and recovery test level. So pretty much what it's trying to say is depending on your recovery and depending on your training load, you your IGF-1 and IGF-BP3 levels, or in other words, your hormones for growth, also is it also can vary depending on the training load and the recovery load as well. And again, this study further points out that regular training lowers the basal cortisol concentration, and compared to the compared to the single bout of training, it has better response for your hormonal activity in terms of cortisol. Pretty much saying is that when you train inconsistently, right? Only what you're doing is you're just increasing the cortisol without giving the enough time for your body to find that balance of cortisol and also growth hormone, right? Growth hormone secretion. So you have to be consistent again with your training in order for your body to experience growth hormone peak responses. Let's go for the next slide, which is the principle that I used in my training. So the first principle is high intensity in moderate volume, right? I focus on high intensity, right? I focus on the effort exerted in each exercise while maintaining the subsequent training volume, right? Here's the key part: subsequent training volume. Subsequent training volume pretty much means that you are training the required amount of training volume while focusing more on the intensity. Because again, intensity, this time I say a lot of like quantity over quality stuff with our habits and self-improvement, but in terms of training, right, in terms of exercise, I would say quality over quantity. And the high intensity is included, the high intensity principle is included so that your body will at first increase the cortisol level, then they will manage it with the second point, which is adequate rest and recovery. So at first you want to increase the cortisol level, and then you would want to take adequate proper rest and recovery protocols so that your body can manage these two hormones in order for you to maximize growth. And the importance of rest and recovery has been emphasized since the golden era. Like guys like Mike Mensa, who trained super hard for 1 to 2 sets only, but then he rested for prolonged days. Like I'm talking 3 to 4 days between each session, or even a week rest day rest periods because of its immense intensity. And again, depending on your training intensity, you have to give proper rest and recovery in order for you to actually grow, in order for your growth hormones and other hormonal activity to regulate. You have to rest, right? The second, or sorry, the third point is focusing on the compounds, right? Because there has been many studies that shows that the exercises that have more motor unit recruitment of muscles increases growth hormone, IGF-1, and testosterone burst responses, right? So what is pretty much is saying that in terms of training only for a specific muscle, when we train for movements and when we train compound movements that require multiple muscles to work at the same time, you are putting your body in that healthy stressful situation in order for your body to produce the IGF-1, the growth hormone, and testosterone, and even from testosterone later to convert into THT and all of that stuff, right? So you want to focus on compounds. And then the last point is high strength transfer to sports, because again, when we are training compounds, we involve a lot of core work, we involve a lot of explosions, we involve a lot of movements that is actually beneficial to sports. Let's say if you're doing bench, right? If you're benching whatever, like 225 or whatnot, your punches will be more explosive, your free throws will be more explosive. In the same way, with your squatting, like good amount of reps and good amount of with good technique and good explosion, you will be faster. So when we focus on compounds, it's going to have high transfer to sports as well. And in my training program, I use these specific principles, specific exercise selection that is actually beneficial for the strength transfer towards the specific sports that you want to do. So for me, I like fighting. I am like starting out on fighting, so I focus most movements that is highly correlated with the specific sports that I'm training. I'm not talking about kettlebell or kettlebell swings or like any goofy stuff. I'm talking about actual compound movement like squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, pull-ups, and things like that, right? So these are the principles that I used in my program, and which I believe is, again, not only in correlation with hormone optimization, but also is very beneficial for the reality part, which is like strength transfer to sports and whatnot. So this is going to be the end of part one. In part two, we're going to break down my training program that I'm doing right now and give you reasons why I do that, and probably give you an idea of how you can program it yourself as well without taking much time, because I mind you, I'm only training 2 times a week for about 2 hours per session, so 4 hours of gym a week maximum. So in part two, I'll be breaking that down, and also the home workout that I used to do, which also encompasses some of the things that I have mentioned, is also in the description.